to the Football Tribe UG channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Welcome back to yet another live broadcast on your favorite football updates channel. It's a pleasure to be back on this beautiful Thursday night. Um, it's been a bit of a disappointing night for me, must I say. Reason being, things have not gone the way I would have hoped them to go. For some reason, my internet feed has been so poor to the extent that I missed all the games that I'd intended to watch. Sites are not loading and things like that. So I've had to sort of labor through it in a way. Not the ideal position that I would have loved to be in. Of course, I'd wanted to watch that game between Aston Villa away to go ahead Eagles, but I was unable to catch that. Again, internet failed me. I tried to watch the Nottingham Forest game against FC Porto. Same story happened, and yeah, and unfortunately, but Aston Villa did lose that game by 2-1, despite going into an early lead in as early as the 4th minute through Guesan. So we'll be talking about that and perhaps among other issues in tonight's podcast. Excuse me. Ah, Jesus Christ. Anyways, forgive me. I was trying to put something right here before we get into the thick of tonight's conversation that I hope will be very entertaining. But yeah, to all our new subscribers, welcome to the Football Tribe UG community. It's good to have you around. It's good to have you on board with us on the Football Tribe UG channel. I hope you do enjoy your stay with us here. I hope you go on to watch and enjoy all our contents. Go through it. Look at, go under the video section, under the short section, under the live section, and watch every piece of content that may catch your attention while on the channel. So, you know, in that sense and regard, So, yeah, that's my humble request to you guys. I hope you do enjoy that. But while you're at it, do not forget to leave your opinion, your views down in the comment section. But otherwise, internet is not interneting. I do not know when I check my speed test. Everything appears to check out, but yet on the other hand, things are not working the way I would have hoped for them to work. I do not know what the primary cause is. By the time of this broadcast, I'm yet to reach out to my ISP, you know, to find a resolution on the matter. But yeah, it appears to be a bit persistent. Anyways, but before we proceed any further, allow me to have our audience tested. Something that I ought to have done in the first minute of the broadcast. I do not know why I sometimes forget, but it's a routine, you know, a thing that we ought to do, just to be sure, you know. But yeah, otherwise, I hope you're good. I hope you're all doing okay. I hope you're all doing okay in as far as your life is concerned, in as far as the day has treated you. You know, on the football front, it's like I said, it's the UEFA Europa League action on, as well as the UEFA Conference League. I will be looking at some of the results that have already happened and those that are in the course of happening in terms of the games that are currently being played. Then also we will look at the weekend ahead in regards to what fixtures there are for you to look forward to. In as far as this weekend is concerned, of course, the Premier League enters match day 9, the Spanish La Liga enters match day 10, then you know the Italian Serie A enters match day 8. Is it? The German Bundesliga, same story, and things like that. So yeah, plenty of action to come our way, you know, as far as the weekend is concerned. But before we get to that side of things, anyways, I was laughing at news that about Ugandan football Somebody saying, a news report, a football journalist saying, our refereeing standards have fallen so low that we can't even have a referee on the provisional list for AFCON 2025. Yeah, that's as bad as things get in the Uganda Premier League. And you cannot, referees at fault. Yeah, of course, they have a part to play in it. Is the federation in part to blame or not correcting things when they go wrong? Maybe. I would want to think so. Maybe, but yeah, a lot of things are happening. A lot of things are happening on the Ugandan football scene, some of which I think we did discuss yesterday. But yeah, it is what it is. We do soldier on regardless. Anyways, so like I say, our conversation will begin from the UEFA Europa League and then onwards, and then we'll see what there will be for us in stock as far as the weekend is to come, in the Premier League and perhaps elsewhere, for fixtures for which we'll get to digest. I think starting tomorrow morning, we'll start doing our previews because tomorrow we have a Friday night football as far as the Premier League is concerned. Leeds United will be up against West Ham. West Ham are still really, really struggling. They do not defend well. They conceded 2 against Brentford. I'd hope for a better result or for different results, but it was never to be. So we'll talk about all the gargantuan teams that you do follow from the Premier League and elsewhere. But in as far as the UEFA Europa League is concerned, we had early kickoffs that kicked off at 7:45 p.m. East African time, with Bern beating up against Rangers by 3 goals to nil. Remember, Rangers sacked Russell Martin, so they have a new man in charge at the moment. Then Ferencváros beat up against Salzburg by 3 goals to 2. FCSB lost to Bologna by 2 goals to 1. Fenerbahce beat up against Stuttgart by 1 to 0. Genk and Real Betis shared the spoils in a goalless draw. Go ahead Eagles beat up against Aston Villa by 2 goals to 1, like I told you. Olympic Lyon beat up against FC Basel by 2 goals to 0, while Braga beat up against Crvena Zvezda by 2 goals to 0. As we speak, Roma at halftime at 2 goals behind against Victoria Pilsen, and Nice against Celta Vigo is 1-1, while Sturm Graz are leading up against Celtic by 1 to 0. Feyenoord and Panathinaikos, that game is 1-1. Freiburg is 2-0 up against Utrecht, while Lille are 3 goals down against PAOK FC. Maccabi Tel Aviv do find themselves a goal behind against Midtjylland at halftime, while Maramo leading by similar scoreline against Dinamo Zagreb. Nottingham Forest are leading by 1 to 0 against FC Porto as we speak, while Young Boys and Ludogorets are 1-1 at the moment. That goal for Nottingham Forest against FC Porto was from a penalty spot scored by Morgan Gibbs White. We will keep trying to, we will keep trying refreshing and testing our pages and see if maybe, just maybe, we can get that second half feed for that game between Nottingham Forest and FC Porto. But so far, I must report that we haven't been successful in our earlier attempts. I do not know whether that is going to be the case throughout, or I should try and seek other means of trying to get access to that game. Let's see if something can come up on a different fora when the second half does resume, which should get underway quite shortly, quite shortly. Anyways, anyways, so yeah, in as far as I think for Aston Villa, that should be a disappointing result, not just because it's a defeat, but because it sort of slumps into their momentum that they had been building for quite a bit of time, and it couldn't have come at a worse time per se when you have a game against Manchester City at Villa Park on Sunday. In any case, those that are pursuing the Premier League title, I'm sure a part of them hopes that teams like Aston Villa get to stand in the way of some of their opponents. And for example, if you're Arsenal at the summit of the Premier League, you're praying that that game between Aston Villa and and Manchester City either ends in a draw or in defeat for Manchester City. That's your hope. If you're Liverpool, you're probably thinking the same thing, because then you can bounce back over the weekend. If you win your game, then you can go ahead with them. That's just the nature of sport. So, and yet when you look at that Aston Villa starting 11, you thought it was quite decent and formidable, quite decent and formidable. For example, of course, they continue to be without Yuri Tielemans. I told you about him. Lucas Digne, Andre Garcia, but starting Emiliano Martinez, Pau Torres, and Tyrone Mings, Victor Lindelof, and Ian Madsen, Amadou Onana, Lamare Bogart in midfield, Jordan Sancho, Emi Buendia, Ivan Gosend, and Oli Watkins is starting 11 good enough, But yeah, unfortunately, it was unable to get them the result that they would have loved to have. Then when you make substitutions of Daniel Malin, Bobaka Kamara, Morgan Rogers, Matty Cash, and John McGinn, I mean, of course, he made some changes to his starting 11 to give a bit of a rotation to his players, but maybe they may have underestimated the prowesses of Go Ahead Eagles, and that came back to bite them, that's what I'm thinking. Sometimes when you're, it's not very, I do not want to say it's very common, but it does happen that sometimes teams develop a little bit of complacency when they meet certain opponents or when they play certain teams. So, for example, if your Premier League team are facing off with a team from the Dutch Eredivisie, it's easy for you to sort of get carried away or to think that the opponent you're up against is lesser than you. And in this particular case, I would want to think that perhaps that is part of the reason as to why they were unable to win tonight. But with that said, or that notwithstanding, you must also acknowledge to some extent that sometimes results won't go your way, no matter how good you are on a given day, that if you do not have the luck on your side, you're not going to get the result that you want. It happens more often than we care to admit that sometimes, regardless of what you do. So, for example, when you look at the statistics from the game, Aston Villa were the dominant side. They had a 70% ball possession. They had 7 shots on target, compared to Go Ahead Eagles only 3 shots on target. They had 8 shots off target, compared to Go Ahead Eagles 2. So you look at the corner kicks that Aston Villa had. It was 10 against 1. So they had a very, very dominant performance, but that dominance in performance could not translate into a victory. The Go Ahead Eagles goalkeeper made as many as 6 saves. That's Jerry Dibasa. He made as many as 6 saves in the game. So while you may want to fault Aston Villa, particularly if you did not watch the game, you may think, oh, yeah, they were too complacent. They didn't put in the effort or the shift that you would have hoped they would have. That wasn't the case. That wasn't the case. It was much, much different. They dominated every aspect of the game. Unfortunately, it wasn't just their day. They couldn't get the results. Those things happen, unfortunately. Another internet glitch. So, okay, we are back. Sorry about that internet glitch. Sorry about that internet glitch. So, like I was saying, unfortunately, it does happen. It does happen. You would have hoped for you'd have hoped for a different result if you're Aston Villa. Hey, guys, if we keep experiencing internet glitches, please do bear with me. Like I've already told you, my internet has been horrible for the entire evening. My speed tests show something different. My my activity in terms of online activity, in terms of the things that you try to load and get going, show something entirely different. So please, in case we do go on and off, please bear with me for the meantime until we have a better feed. It will keep happening, but expect it to keep happening. Internet to keep dropping and on and off. It's just going to happen. It's just going to keep happening. I do not know for how long. I'm hoping for lesser periods than it should actually be happening. That's my hope. But yeah, it's not looking pretty so far. When you look at most of our tests, this feels more or less like a sabotage of some sort. I do not want to believe it's like this, but yeah, I don't want that to be the case. I do not want to believe it is the case. But you could buy into it. You could buy into it if you're not careful. But yeah, hopefully we can get over that. So yeah, like I said, Aston Villa, very dominant. Not their day. It happens. We've seen it. For those of you that have watched football long enough, you will know that it does happen. You will give a game your goal, your everything, and still not get the desired result, and still not come out on top in that particular game. So that was the kind of game it was for Aston Villa tonight. But like I've told you, I'm really trying. I'm trying everything within my power to see if we can access another feed and do a watch along. But so far, feeds are eluding me. Sites are not loading. Apps are not loading. Everything is just not clicking. But yeah, at least it will go down that Morgan Gibbs White scored the first goal of the Sean Dyche era. Remember, Nottingham Forest are under the charges of Sean Dyche, who took over the reins from Ange Postecoglou, and his biggest challenge is going to be how soon can he get a victory in comparison to Ange Postecoglou, who got sacked without recording a victory. In the 8 games he managed Nottingham Forest through, recording 6 defeats and 2 draws. So yeah, is it going to be tonight that he gets to get that victory, or we're going to have to wait? Let's see what the second half has to offer for that game between Nottingham Forest and FC Porto. The second half is already underway, and we're into about what, 48th minutes, thereabout, 49th minutes, yes. So and they maintain their 1-0 lead. In the other game, Roma have pulled one back in their game against Victoria Pilsen. So it's 2-1. Victoria Pilsen are leading that game by 2-1. So let's wait and see what the final result will be. But away from that, since we can watch it, let's look to what's to come. Leeds United versus West Ham. That game is coming up tomorrow night on Friday Night Football. Remember, West Ham played on Monday night. So, of course, Leeds have had 2 extra days of rest, Leeds have not had it pretty or easy. Excuse me, because over the weekend, their game ended in defeat. They lost 2-0 against Burnley, against the team, a fairly newly promoted side in Burnley. I told you this about Leeds, that Leeds could go down as one of those teams, as we have come to see in many different seasons. Particularly, normally give the example of Burnley in the 2023-2024 campaign, and shortly, I think before that, we had Norwich City, still under the charges of Daniel Fekir. The Burnley side that I referred to was under the charges of Vincent Kompany. playing nice football on the pitch, very, very expansive, attacking football, but never getting things done, never getting victories, conceding too many goals on the other side. So I'm hoping that Daniel Faki can change things around pretty soon, because the last time Leeds were in the league was back in what? 2023-2024 campaign, wasn't it? I think they were available in that season, you know. So, because you have to go back to, yes, 2020-2023, then 2021-2022, yes, 2022-2023, 2021-2022. Those 2 seasons, they were in the top flights. So, but when you look at Leeds United, their last 2 games have ended in defeat. They lost against Tottenham Hotspur by 2-1, lost 2-0 against Burnley. Then in between there, they had the 2-2 draw against Bournemouth. They managed to beat up against Wolverhampton Wanderers away from home by 3-1. And then the game against Fulham, you know, the game against Fulham, they lost it by 1-0. That own goal by Goodmanson, the own goal in the 4th minute of added time. So, which cost them points. When you look at the position on the league table, it's not very, very encouraging. Not that it's too worrisome, that because there are 2 places above the relegation zone, but yeah, they've only had 2 victories and 2 draws, and they've lost 4 games. So they will need to self-correct as soon as possible. Because you see, for a newly promoted team like Leeds United, like Sunderland, like Burnley, the fight against relegation starts almost immediately. So that's why, for me, Sunderland so far, in the 8 games played in the Premier League, are the surprise package of the season. So far, they are the surprise package of the season. Of course, take nothing away from Bournemouth, the way they've started their campaign, as well as Crystal Palace. But for those 2 sides, they were in the Premier League last season. So anything they do is only a build up to whatever it is they managed to achieve in the previous campaign. So Sunderland being in 7th place at the moment after 4 victories and 2 draws in the opening 8 fixtures with only 2 losses is something to be really, really positive about, you know. And yet, in sheer comparison, like I told you, Leeds have lost 4 games. So, is the game against West Ham that they register their 3rd victory of the season? It could be, because West Ham, on the other side, have done themselves no favors because they've lost equally their 2 last games without scoring a goal, both losing by 2-0 against Arsenal and against Brentford. While before that, they had the 1-1 draw against Everton. Then they have a 3-0 loss to Tottenham Hotspur with a 2-1 loss against Crystal Palace in between there. So West Ham only have 1 point in their last 5 games, whereas Leeds, on the other side, have lost 3 out of the last 5. They've won 1 and drawn the other, so that's 4 points. So in terms of league form, they both have poor form. Leeds are just slightly better. Having earned 3 more points in comparison to West Ham. West Ham have only won 1 game, and that game was against Nottingham Forest, winning by a goal to 3-0, and then the draw against Everton. That's all they have. All the other 6 games have ended in defeat. Nuno Espirito Santo is working to get things right, but so far they've not happened. Does this game come too early for Nuno Espirito Santo? I wouldn't want to believe so. Despite going ahead to lose against Brentford by 2-0, I do not want to think that a newly promoted side from the Championship is a game that comes too early for a team like West Ham, regardless of whatever form or shape that you find yourselves in, you know. So, but like I said, you look at the last 5 meetings between the 2 sides, and West Ham have the lion's share of victories, having recorded three, what? Actually, four out of the last five. They've, they've recorded three victories, lost one, and won one. The last meeting was in May 2023. West Ham beat up against Leeds at the London Stadium by 3-1, while the reverse fixture had ended in a 2-2 draw. Then you went things further back in the 2021-2022 campaign, and you'll find that Leeds beat up against West Ham by 3-2, while they lost the reverse fixture by 2-1. And then there's another 2-0 victory for West Ham. So West Ham do dominate this fixture, but like I've said, West Ham are not in the best shape whatsoever. They're not in the best shape whatsoever. You look at that team, and they defend poorly for me. So for me, most of my reservations about West Ham are about how they defend. About how they defend. They do that poorly, and even when they change systems against after into the second half against Brentford, they still conceded. Of course, they lost. What's his name? Mavropanos to an injury in that very game. So, but Todibo, Tillman, Kyle Walker-Peters, Scales, Ivy, Thomas Tuchel, Lucas Paqueta, Somerville, Fernandez, it's not happening for them. Gerard Bowen, Nicholas Fulku, I do not know if he's even fit, really. But yeah, they need to pull up their stockings. They need to pull up their stockings and start doing better. Fans have started questioning the intent of the owners, of the club owners at West Ham, So when we look at their probable lineup, I do not think it's going to change much from what it was against Brentford, because they have a couple of injuries to worry about themselves. James Ward-Prowse out for personal reasons. George Athey with the knock. Nicholas Fulku with the thigh injury. Konstantinos Mavropanos with the thigh injury. I do not know whether those will have passed the leg fitness test by tomorrow to feature in that game. But I expect Alfonso Areola to be in their goal. Malik Diouf, Max Kilman, Jean Clear, Todibo, Kyle Walker-Peters, Guedo Rodriguez, Thomas Tuchel, Somerville, Luis Guilherme, Gerard Bowen, and Lucas Paqueta to start as the first nine. Again, I do not know. I feel like maybe West Ham should try back five, back three with the wing backs. Start with that. Be a bit more conservative. Avoid conceding in the first place. Avoid conceding. You're playing against the lead side who have players that can hurt you, but Dominic Calvert-Lewin does not have form. Besides Jack Harrison, Brennan Aronson, Sean Longstaff, Tanaka, Anton Starch, Gabriel Goodmanson, Jack Bijol, Joe Rodon, Jaden Bogo, and that lead side is not a team that you look to and fear for your life. It shouldn't be the team. And if West Ham are to bounce back, or start bouncing back, or start picking points, or start experiencing that new manager bounce, it has to happen against a team like Leeds. Yes, you did not get it against Brentford. Make it about Leeds. At least get a point. Start from there. Build on that, because it's not going to get any easier. It's not like there's going to come a day where suddenly West Ham are having easier games, because if we look at their fixtures that are going to come, it's not going to get any easier. After playing Leeds United, you have a home game against Newcastle. It only gets harder. The advantage for West Ham in this particular case, or what would be the advantage, is one, I hope that they will pick at least a point in the game against Brentford. They didn't. Very disappointing, but that's okay. But in your next 3 Premier League games, you have 2 games against newly promoted sides in Leeds away and Burnley at home. So after the game against Leeds United, they will be at home, first Newcastle, and to play 2 consecutive games at home, with the other coming against Burnley. So those at least get 6 points out of the possible 9. If you lose to Newcastle, of course, you wouldn't want to lose to Newcastle at home. But given the circumstances, I wouldn't be surprised if Newcastle would and thrashed them. Newcastle just beat up against Benfica by 3 goals to 0 in the UEFA Champions League. Just they've not had the best starts to the Premier League season. They themselves, to the extent that they are also at the moment 14th on the Premier League group with only 2 victories and 3 draws. That notwithstanding, they're still better than West Ham. So, and then after that, we will of course go for the international break after that Burnley game. And when we return, you have games against Bournemouth, you have games against Liverpool, you have games against Manchester United, you have games against Brighton. It just gets hard. It gets harder. And I do not think it even gets harder than that if you're West Ham fan, because after Brighton, you have a game at home against Aston Villa, then you play against Manchester City. So increasingly, incrementally, it becomes harder. But if you want to give yourself a chance, a believing chance, you start with that facet of games. At least take 6 points out of the possible 9, and then we're going to the international break, continue to work on reorganization of the team, as known as Espirito Santo. Come, maybe you go to the Vitality Stadium, fight your way into a 1-1 draw or something, or pick a point. Host Liverpool, difficult game. Away to Manchester United, very difficult game. Brighton game won't be any easy. Aston Villa won't be any easy. Then Manchester City away. Then you have a London derby against Fulham, and then Brighton again by 30th of December. So it's not going to get easy. And there's no point where it gets easier for West Ham. But they got to start somewhere to pick up points. And for me, this should be the period. So anyways, I will leave it at that. For West Ham, my prediction is it could end in a 1-1 draw tomorrow. I do not know. I keep having this slight sense of optimism in this West Ham side. And for me particularly, it's less about the players. It's more in the manager that they do have. In Nuno Espirito Santo, who I believe he has the organizational capabilities of coaching a team into being very difficult to score against. And that's how you start picking points, because he cannot blame it on the players that he has, because he can only play the hand he's been dealt with, and he's gone there knowing the kinds of players that they do have. They need some good defenders. They need some really, really good defenders. At the moment, it's not the case. It's not the case. Anyways, let's leave that at that. In the other games that will come your way on March the 9th of the Premier League, there will be on Saturday, there will be no early kickoff in terms of 2:30 p.m. kickoff. So forget about that. But games will kick off at 5 p.m. So yeah, Chelsea will be up against Sunderland. Newcastle will be up against Fulham. 2 difficult games. But Chelsea, high on confidence. They've just beaten up against Ajax 5-1 in the UEFA Champions League. If you're looking at that game, and you must be thinking yourself as a Chelsea fan, yeah, this is where we carry on the momentum. I mean, you've won 2 out of 2 and 3 out of 3 in all competitions in the last 3 games. So you beat it up against Liverpool, you beat it up against Nottingham Forest, causing the sack of a manager. Sunderland next. Not that Sunderland is easy, but you're at home. It's at Stamford Bridge. Make your statement. We're talking about the Sunderland side, who in their last 5 games, they have 2 draws, 2 victories, and 1 loss. That loss came in a 2-0 loss against Manchester United. The goalless draw against Crystal Palace, 1-1 against Aston Villa. They beat up against Nottingham Forest away from home by 1-0. Beat up against Wolverhampton Wanderers by 2-0 in their last league outing. So form is on their side. Form it's like form is it's such that form is equally on their side. It's not as perfect as that of Chelsea, but you know, because Chelsea in the last 5 have only equally lost 1. They've had 1 draw. They have 3 victories. No, sorry. Chelsea actually have 2 losses. 1 draw against Brentford 2-2. They lost to Man United 2-1. They lost to Brighton and Hove Albion 3-1. And then they beat up against Liverpool 2-1. Beat up against Nottingham Forest 3-0. The thing that you must be concerned about this Chelsea side is that capable of conceding goals. If you're Sunderland, you're looking at them and you're like, that Chelsea defense, if you attack it well enough, you will score against them. You will score against them. And it's Sunderland, and not a very, very easy team to score against. If you look at the Premier League standings, they are among the teams who have conceded very few goals. They've conceded 6 goals. Yes, they do not score many because they've only scored 9, but they do not concede many, as well. And out of those 9 goals, 3 came against West Ham in the opening weekend. So usually win with narrow victories and things like that. So, but Chelsea have that feel-good factor. You've won twice in the Premier League, gone to the European scene and won. When you look at the last 5 meetings, of course, this is many, many years back. You have to go back to 2017 for their last Premier League meeting. You'll have to go back to 2017, 2016, and 2015. Around that period, when in May 2017, you can imagine what kind of Chelsea it was at the time. But they managed to beat up against Sunderland by 5-1. Guess who scored? Eden Hazard was among the goal scorers. Since left, went to Real Madrid. Things never worked out. Retired from football. Michu Batshuayi scored a brace that game. William Borges da Silva left the club, went to Arsenal, didn't work out, went back to Brazil, never worked out, came back to the Premier League at Fulham, didn't work out, and Pedro. So that's how long it's been between their last meeting and this one. But yeah, in all those last 5 meetings, Chelsea only lost 1 game, and that was away to Sunderland. They lost by 3-2. But all the others were victories, scoring a total of about, in those 4 victories, Chelsea scored a total of 12 goals and conceded about 3. So that should tell you. But like I said, that sort of history, this too far back, almost 2017, let's see, we're in 2025, almost 7-8 years ago, So, but in terms of the league positions, they're close. Chelsea 5th, Sunderland is 7th. When you look on paper, like I said, Sunderland is not an easy team to beat. So the question will be, who do Chelsea field against this stubborn, hard to score against Sunderland side? Of course, you would expect Robert Sanchez in goal, Richard James, Joshua Achepong, maybe Trevor Chalobah, Marco Cucurella. Amalo Gusto will be absent through injury, but Moises Caicedo alongside Romeo Lavia in that double pivot. He did even score against Ajax yesterday, Moises Caicedo. Then Pedro Neto, Joao Pedro, Jamie Gittens to start ahead of Garnacho or William Estabar, Enzo Fernandez in that, behind the striker sort of attacking midfield wall, that's what I would sort of expect, in my opinion. But let's wait and see. On the side of Sunderland, Granit Xhaka he's been quite the leader in that, Sunderland dressing room. He's done really, really well, But yeah, you expect Rolfies in goal for Sunderland, Hume, Aderelete, Ballard, Mukele, Xhaka, Sadiki, Rigi, Traore, Leafy, and Isido. Those are some of the players that you should expect. Because I do not think much will change. Maybe if they want to change a few things, Simon Adingra could come in. Arthur Masuaku could come in. Or who else? Yeah, those are the players that they could look to, in terms of bringing in to that side. But I'll give you my predictions. Maybe tomorrow or on Saturday morning. I'll give my prediction then. But I still think that Chelsea is the stronger side. Is the team to beat in this particular game. So yeah, Enzo Maresca is equally looking to build on that momentum to keep winning games until we get into the next international break. Then Newcastle versus Fulham, like I told you, and Newcastle haven't had the best start to the Premier League campaign. But you'd want to think that they have something to. There's some positives to take out from that Newcastle side. Like I keep saying, they won in the UEFA Champions League against Benfica, but also they had won their previous game in the UEFA Champions League. Was it against Union Saint-Gilloise, who they beat up by 4-0? But let's wait and see. But Fulham is a very stubborn side, and you saw how they made things difficult, really for Arsenal. Arsenal needed only beat them by 0-0. Of course, Newcastle on the other side were busy also losing to Brighton and Hove Albion by 2-1. And we're talking about a team that is 14th, Newcastle, a team that is 15th. Not that league positions should matter much, but in the sense they matter because all want to climb into the top 10. That's the objective at the moment. They want to have a better season than the one they've so far recorded. When you look at their statistics, they're literally no different. The only difference is that Newcastle managed one draw more than Fulham have lost 4, Newcastle have lost 3 games. It's a bit of a case of fine margins or small margins when you look at this whole thing. But yeah, Newcastle, like I keep saying, they have a 1-0 victory against Wolves. That goal was scored by Nick Volkmada, shared the spoils in a goalless draw with Brentford. Sorry, Bournemouth lost to Arsenal by 2-1. Nick Volkmada scoring that one. Beat up against Nottingham Forest by 2-0. Bruno Guimaraes and Nick Volkmada scoring in that game. Then lost to Brighton over Albion. Fulham on the other side beat up against Leeds by 0-0. Beat up against Brentford by 3-1. Lost to Aston Villa by 3-1. Lost to Bournemouth by 3-1. Lost to Arsenal by 4-0. Now, you see, that's the interesting thing about football, is that you have Aston Villa, you have Brentford, you have Bournemouth. Sorry, Fulham beat up against Brentford by 3-1 because it will be Wilson and Pinnock, their own call. Yes, Fulham beat up against Brentford, but you look at the losses to Aston Villa and the losses to Bournemouth, and you're wondering, how do those two sides manage to beat them by 3-1? And Arsenal really had to struggle to beat them only by 0-0. It is the nature of football. That's the nature of football. It happens that way. But yeah, anyways, let's check on the updates from the UEFA Europa League, guys. But also on Friday night, in the Spanish La Liga, Real Sociedad will be up against Sevilla, 10 p.m. Werder Bremen will be up against Union Berlin. AC Milan will be taking on Pisa, while Paris FC will be up against Nantes in the French League 1. And in the Dutch Eredivisie, Heerenveen will be up against NAC Breda. there in those fixtures. So do not miss out on any of that. Then quickly, like I said, as we speak, we're into the 80th minute for some of those games, while others are in the 79th minute. AS Roma are still 1-2 against Victoria Pilsen. Celta Vigo are 2-1 up against Nice. Sturm Graz 2-1 behind against Celtic. Feyenoord leading 2-1 against Panathinaikos. Freiburg 2-0 against Utrecht. Lille are 3-4. Pau is leading against Lille by 4-3. Looks like already 7 goals galore. It was 2-0 at halftime in favor of Pau. So you can see. Midtjylland have the second against Maccabi Tel Aviv, while Malamo still have that 1-0 lead against Dinamo Zagreb. Same applies for Nottingham Forest against FC Porto. Young Boys leading 3-1 against Ludogorets. Yeah, that's in the UEFA Europa League. In the UEFA Conference League, Crystal Palace are a goal behind against Lanaka. And yet not much has changed in regards to their starting 11. It's still Dean Howson, Jaded Covet, Maxence Lacrosse, McCoy, Daniel Munoz, Will Hughes, Jefferson Nama. Now, there's a change in that midfield because usually you have Adam Wharton and Taichi Kamada. Derek Mitchell is in there, Ismail Sarr, Jean-Philippe Mateta, and Jeremy Pino in that sort of 3-4-3 kind of system. So the reason that's why I highlight that is because Arsenal have a bet with Crystal Palace come the weekend or over the course of the weekend, you know. So be keen on that, for what's to come during the course of the weekend. Then guys, internet is so bad, so slow. I don't even know what to say. It's just too bad. Anyways, let's go through the list of fixtures and then we'll wrap it up because of the poor internet. And maybe tomorrow morning it will be better, but it's disappointingly slow. Maybe I need to check how many devices are on my network, but I do not think that's the issue. You know, I do not think that's the issue. Anyways, so yeah, Newcastle will be up against Fulham in the 5 p.m. kickoff, as well as that of Chelsea. Then at 7:30, we'll have Man United against Brighton. Like I said, both sides on the back of 2 incredible results. Brighton beating up against Newcastle by 2-1, while Man United were beating up against Liverpool by 2-1. Brentford will entertain Liverpool at home. Brentford just won 2-0 against West Ham United on Monday night. Liverpool returned from Germany with 5-1 victory against Eintracht Frankfurt. Then on Super Sunday, 4 games will kick off at 5 p.m. Arsenal up against Crystal Palace, Aston Villa up against Manchester City, Bournemouth at home against Nottingham Forest, Wolverhampton Wanderers against Burnley, while Everton at 7:30 p.m. will be up against Tottenham Hotspur. So yeah, those are the games that will come your way over the course of the weekend in as far as the Premier League is concerned. Like I said, I wouldn't have loved us to end the conversation here. I would have loved really for us to carry on the conversation, but internet is so poor. Anyways, it's always a pleasure being this with you. To our new subscribers, like I said in the preamble, thank you so much. For those that have been watching our content, you know, we do not take your love and support for granted. Keep watching. Remember, we are working. The objective is to get to those. Hello, man. What's up? Amma, I'm trying to read your name. Hi, how are you doing? I'm trying to read your name, but because my screen is a bit spoiled, I'm struggling. to read it. Let me see if I can read it properly. At least I owe you that. Yes. Amajuski. Amajuski. Is that how you pronounce your name? How are you doing, my brother? Good to have you on the podcast. Kindly consider subscribing to the channel. From job. Oh, you're from work. You're now chilling. What job do you do? What job do you do? And where are you joining us from? If you do not mind me asking. If you don't mind me asking, what job do you do? But please kindly consider subscribing to the channel and become the 2,200 subscriber on the channel. You say you're locksmith. Oh, locksmith. What do they do? Are you the guys that cut keys? Jesus Christ. So poor but it's language. What I even need to, find out what that means. I need to find out what that means. Yes, I make keys. Okay, I guessed right. As I don't know why I was self-doubting, And let me see. I've encountered those a couple of times. I mean, I've always locksmith guys. You guys are bright. You're really, I don't know. You're so skilled at what you do. Those definite hands of yours. And the reason as I say this, it's not just to sing praise of you, but for many of the guys I've seen, I remember going to a similar guy, and this was many years ago, back here in Kampala, and he looked at the key. They told me how much it was going to cost to cut that key, and then they said, because I'd not gone with the padlock, so they're like, they looked at the key, they cut it, they said, after, usually you need to have the locker, the actual, maybe the padlock or whatever the test is to test and see if it works. But I worked on it, looked at it multiple times, kept, how do they call it? Is it a filer? Whatever, did his grading and everything, looked at it again, it's like, have the key, you go, it will work. I'm like, how sure are you it's going to work? He's like, I'm sure, I know. And I went and it worked. So, I mean, hands up to you guys, the locksmith. You guys do a very, very wonderful job, and you're just good at what you do. It's a skill that I'm sure you cannot just teach to anyone to learn. It's just brilliant. But yeah, it's been a pleasure having you on the broadcast as well. I hope you've subscribed to the channel to become the 2,200 subscriber on the channel. But yeah, although you didn't tell us where you're getting us from, kindly do subscribe to the channel or consider subscribing to the channel, and then so that you become the 2,200 subscriber of Football Tribe. But if you do not mind us asking, you can also let us know where you're getting us from tonight. I like your stream. Thank you. For purposes of clarity, it's a sports channel, it's a football channel. We get to sit here and talk about football. Yeah, predominantly football. And a few other things that may come up during the course of the conversation. And on that note, therefore, I wish to send my sincere greetings to our friends in India, our friends in Pakistan, our friends in Indonesia, in Bangladesh. Yeah, those, we have a good number of those on the channel. So thank you so much for showing the love and support. It's been, of course, I like to stream. Thank you. Thank you. All those people from South Africa, people from the UK, Boss Royal, from Ireland, LFC, from Spain, Pedri, Snow from the USA, who else? Pressing Kosi from South Africa, My colleagues in Uganda that support what I do, thank you so much. I do not take your love and support for granted. It's been a pleasure being this with you. Have yourselves a blessed night. Let's do this again tomorrow morning, in case, because like I said, internet has not been the very best tonight. It's been off and on and off. It's been on and off. We've had to struggle through the entire stream with internet. We've had to struggle through the entire stream, you know. But yeah, it's all good. Some days are better than others, and today is just not one of those better days. Although Ahmad Juski made it better. You made it worthwhile. You know, you made it worthwhile for us. So yeah, thank you so much. Have a blessed night. Let's do this again tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. East African time, and then of course in the night at tomorrow. Tomorrow being a Friday, will come a little earlier than 11 p.m. So be mindful of that. You know? So yeah, bye bye for now. Stay blessed.